I broke my back.
What do you mean by that? You broke?
My back is broken.
What, a vertebrae or what portion?
Spinal.
I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
Big shout out to everybody who really sang. And as a kid, I always wanted to meet Don King. But now I think Don King's a fucking asshole. He's a racist.
No. We're not going down that road.
None bigger than this. Maybe the biggest upset of this decade.
En ese estilo es un fuck you, porque él puede quedar bien con la pelea.
Welcome to the Mr. Boxing Guru podcast. It is me, Sal, Mr. Boxing Guru. Here I am again with another podcast. I said I would start doing these more often. And, well, it's been about 3 weeks. So just wanted to make sure I calm down, relax, had time to enjoy you guys. I know you guys don't enjoy me, but for some reason, listen to the podcast. So, again, thank you so much. And while you're at it, make sure you guys like and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Spreaker, but especially on YouTube, because it's time for me to start doing stuff on YouTube. And again, all that stuff is free. So maybe I'll start throwing more of my Instagram content and Twitter content on YouTube. It only seems fair. It seems like that's what everybody's doing. So I want to be part of the cool crowd as well. So let's get to it right away. There's not a lot of boxing, but a lot of boxing chisme, a lot of boxing stories. Like, for example, the Canelo fight versus Caleb Plant is officially off. At least in talks now, according to the sources king, Mike Coppinger from ESPN. Sounds weird, Mike Coppinger being on ESPN, but seems fitting. Seems fitting. Yeah, so there's a bunch of stories on why, speculations. Again, sources on why it wasn't going to happen. Look, this is a fight that in my opinion, doesn't move the needle much. Well, to Canelo. I think for fans that know or have come to appreciate Canelo, know that the type of fighter Caleb Plant is, and let's be honest, Caleb Plant is just another European guy with a little bit of glitter and barbecue sauce on him. The same thing that's happened to all these Euro guys that Eddie Hearn has brought to the table. It's the same thing that was going to happen to Caleb Plant, and probably even worse, because I don't think Caleb was going to have the ability to keep Canelo off of him. He doesn't have the power, doesn't have the pop. I mean, he doesn't have the activity to be able to do that. So that's eventually. I think if you know boxing, you know that this fight. I mean, you ask about it, and you're like, people are like, whatever, I don't care. Now, who it did mean a lot to was Canelo, because look, man, at the end of the day, he's not fighting Caleb Plant because of his set of skills that he possesses. He's fighting Caleb Plant because he has a belt. At the end of the day, we're not even going to remember who the fuck Caleb Plant is. We just know that he's a guy that Canelo somehow became undisputed. I mean, when you become undisputed as a fighter, you pretty much beat the man that beat the man that beat the man. So in this 4-belt era, that's all you really want. There's no, even if we were living the moment, there's no, in the history books, there's no questioning what these undisputed champions are doing. There's no questioning Crawford. There's not going to be any questioning Crawford, a few years from now. There's not going to be questioning Taylor when he became the undisputed at 140. We're not going to, again, it's a hell of an accomplishment for a fighter, even though I know that I kind of contradict myself a lot when it comes to belts. But at the end of the day, let's be honest, belts matter. At least they'll matter in the history books. And Canelo has always had that reputation of, he's beating old men, he's beating undersized fighters. So there's always something. There's always an excuse to Canelo's wins. And I think 10, 15 years from now, if you were to fight a Caleb Plant fight, which again, it's not so much Caleb Plant, it's the belt that Caleb Plant has, no one's going to be able to take that away from him. He did become the he should, or he would have become the super middleweight champ at 168, and without no questions. This is the same guy that came from 147 that went and fought and became undisputed champion at 160. Now he can't have that because I don't know who is to blame. I mean, look, Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn is the first one I want to blame. 3-4 years ago, I would have blamed Al Heyman nonstop, really easy. I wouldn't even ask for facts or figures, nothing. Eddie Hearn has been manipulating Canelo's career for the last 2-3 years, if we really want to be specific. We know that Eddie Hearn manipulated a lot of the fighters not to fight Canelo. Again, the fight versus the brothers, I forget the name, but the giant kids that he fought, for some reason they never came to fruition. The Billy Joe Saunders never came to fruition. These are guys in Eddie Hearn's stable that for some reason, again, I don't know. And this was when he was the Golden Boy. So now years by, and now that Eddie Hearn has the ability to promote and co-promote and bring in another promoter, not only get what's best for his investors, in this case, DAZN, but get what's best and a good percentage of that for Canelo, which is his client. I feel like he's almost fucking it up for them. Again, we're all going on speculation. We don't really know what's happening, but that's a big issue that a promoter has to be able to work for you, has to be able to, swallow their pride and work for everybody. And even if you don't get the biggest paydays or revenues or whatever right out the bat, but at least you position your fighter into doing something great in the future. You got to be. I don't want to say Canelo's going to be the B-side, but he has to lose a little bit to gain a lot. In this case, like I said, everybody in boxing, everybody that knows boxing knows that Caleb Plant is officially being sold to Canelo as his latest victim. So they have to be compensated well. I get it that Caleb Plant's never fought anybody at the caliber of Canelo. I get it that he's never made that amount of money. But I also I also understand that he's in a great position to where he could put him. It's sort of like, let me fucking dumb this down. It's sort of like the people that are on unemployment right now, right? All the people that are on unemployment right now, they're getting more money than they would working a minimum wage job because, the state unemployment or federal unemployment, whatever it is paying good money. And on top of that, they're still getting more money to stay home. So they're worth, and now they're needed in the job market. Now in the job market, they're needed pretty much where you can't pay these people a minimum wage anymore, but you could pay them over the minimum wage for them to get out of their fucking couches and work for them. So that person that was making $15 an hour is now worth in the marketplace because all these government assistance programs is now worth $22, $23, $24 an hour, because in order to give yourself some sort of incentive to go into an office or go into, mill, wherever you work and leave your family and have to pay for gas, you have to be there's got to be some sort of incentive. And I think Caleb Plant is that unemployment recipient right now. I think this is a perfect analogy for him. He is the unemployment recipient right now that needs to be dug out of his unemployment pajamas and brought to the table because he's worth that much money because of his belt. Again, and back to the point I was trying to make. Who is the problem? I heard from the Haney people saying that the problem is drug testing. People are saying that Canelo's VADA 24/7, but really, when was the last time Canelo was actually tested? That is the big problem. So, yes, Canelo has options. Canelo has evolved. Do you really want to see evolve? Canelo has options. Do you really want to see Golovkin? I want to see him versus Golovkin. I would fucking want to go to that fight versus Golovkin. But I also need to understand that's not what everybody else wants. People want Canelo to be undisputed. They go based on facts and figures. In my opinion, like I said, and I've said it many, many times on this podcast, Golovkin gave Canelo the best fights of his life. Golovkin made Canelo look like a human being. Everybody else that he's fought, he's made Canelo look like a fucking freak of nature. Do I want to see the fight? Yeah. I mean, am I okay with chilling for a while and then letting maybe Golovkin reinvent himself where he's fighting other fighters again? Absolutely. But if that fight's next, fuck it. I would rather enjoy that, even if Golovkin gets beat. I would rather enjoy that than a fight with Caleb Plant. Another fight that supposedly is happening, and sorry about my weird transition, is Crawford versus Porter has been ordered by the sanctioning body that Crawford has. Yeah, that's cute. Look, man, and I hate to be pessimistic because I like to see stuff once it's in writing. And even once it's in writing, I like to see it. I'm not really ready until both of these guys are in the ring, especially right now during the COVID era. For this fight, and just like I've mentioned it before, when people are talking about Crawford versus Spence, yes, it's the fight that we want. Absolutely. Is it a fight that we could afford? I don't think so. Crawford, in my opinion, it's right there. Him and Mikey are like, they're just like fucking each other. I feel like, yes, they love boxing, but they're okay sitting this shit out and waiting to see how it's going to happen. Crawford, we haven't seen him in so long, on social media. He's not the most social butterfly, I guess you could say. So we don't really see much of Bud Crawford. And when we do is just, Bob keeps telling us that there's a fight that's going to happen, but it never does. There's a Crawford fight every 2 weeks. There's a Crawford fight announcement coming every 2 weeks, and it never happens. Now, Crawford, again, he does have his fan base. It is a fan base that could get him, maybe sell a couple of tickets, maybe $1 million gate. I wouldn't be surprised. But what about Porter? I mean, the great thing about Porter brought the PBC, so they'll build something up over there on their end and whatnot. But now, is it a fight that's going to that's going to create a large amount of revenue? I mean, that's going to create $20 million in sales, whether it's pay-per-views, whether it's gate at the gate. I don't think so. So when Crawford has a $4 to $6 million minimum, and I'm sure that Porter's going to want the same. So let's say $12 million for both, and then you still got to pay everybody else. You got to stack up undercard. You got to set up a promotion. You got to pay a promoter. The money isn't there. Let's be honest. None of us are really going to jump off our seats to go to a Crawford fight. Not versus Porter. It's not a pretty fight. I think Porter's a hell of a fighter, but he's not the most stylistic, pretty fighter that there is. He's a kid that goes in there with his head and tries to bulldoze everybody. I get it. That's a style. That doesn't mean I'm going to pay, $200, $300, $400 a ticket to go see him. It's just, it's not very interesting. It's not something I want to do. So we got to put ourselves in that position. Do we really want to see a name, or do we actually want to see a fight? I'm okay at this point. I'm okay not seeing both Crawford and Porter. I'm not going to pay. I'll tell you right now, and shout out to War Media for creating the ability for boxing fans or for fans and of TV watching experience, and creating what he calls War Media. And I'm not going to pay for that fight. I'm going to watch it on War Media. I'm not going to go out of my way to pay for that fight that I know almost how it's going to end, where Crawford is just boxing, which is nothing wrong with the way Crawford boxes. He's a fucking dog. He's going to just be waiting for Porter to go in, and he's going to end up catching him somewhere late with something nasty, and that's going to be a statement. I'm going to watch that fight because I'm a fan of boxing, but I'm not going to pay for it or go see that fight, and I'm sure most of my listeners won't either. So who's going to pay for that fight? I wouldn't be surprised if Crawford, if the negotiations go to fucking hell, or if Thriller maybe tries to put that fight together and somehow it fucks everything up and somebody mysteriously gets COVID again, a la Teofimo. But I just don't see that fight happen. Or I could see Crawford getting his walkout papers. I could see Heyman overbidding on that fight, and Crawford goes to PBC, which I've never been that guy that encourages fighters to go to PBC or is pushing them to go over there, but I think Crawford belongs there. There's all the 147s are out there. I don't think Crawford has a big enough frame to go to 154, so there's nowhere where he's going. I don't see him even touching 154 pounds. So 47 it is. Unless he wants to wait even more, because here comes the Virgils, here comes the Boots. There's a lot of fighters that are coming up, younger fighters, early to mid 20s that are 147 pounders, that he could maybe be the man there for a long time, because I'm sure that Manny Pacquiao's gone after this fight, win or lose. I'm sure that Spence is gone after this fight. I'm sure that Keith Thurman is gone after this. These are guys with big frames that are made for 154 plus that are honestly outgrowing the division. So I could see Crawford being the man there for a while, and maybe waiting for the Virgils if that's what he wants to do. But these other guys are pretty much gone, and I don't think Porter moves the needle that much to entice somebody really into a fight. Again, this Porter fight, I want to watch it, but it's not something that I'm gonna spend my hard-earned money on. Let's see what's next. Again, nothing but stuff that's not even created that's going on here, and the theme continues. Maybe I should name the podcast the What If podcast, because King Ryan and Jojo Diaz is being talked about, including Devin Haney, and somehow Tres Mujeres Un Camino things going on here. And Teofimo Covid, who's fighting him because he doesn't want to fight on Thriller anymore. You see, for all these four kids, well, I'm a big fan of Jojo. I've always been a big fan of Jojo. I like Jojo at 126, pushing it at 130. Not at 135. And the reason why is because I think that the generation at 135 is very young generation at 135 that have a much bigger frame, that have a frame for 140, 147. Like Ryan Garcia, like Devin Haney, like Teofimo. But Jojo doesn't really belong, but he seems like he's the only guy at that division that's willing to fight everybody. What surprises me personally from the King Cry Garcia fight, or him even being mentioned in the same breath as Jojo Diaz, is that just a few weeks ago, I believe about 2 weeks ago, and again, sources are key here. Sources told me that Ryan Garcia and his advisors wanted to fight Jorge Gamboa. Oh, I'm sorry. Why didn't I call him Jorge Gamboa? I'm sorry. Yuriorkis Gamboa. Jorge Gamboa is a paisa singer, Mexican descent. Anyways. Yuriorkis Gamboa, the Cuban Olympian that has been dropped by pretty much everybody and their mom, is a guy that many of the fighters have used as a stepping stone, whether it's Crawford, whether it's Tank Davis, till recently Devin Haney. But it's a fighter that's already had his better days at lighter divisions. That's really, the legs are really not there. He's not the best. Not the best choice, and it's not fair because he's a little guy. But for Ryan to go from Yuriorkis Gamboa to talks about Jojo Diaz, I would love the fight, but I think it's all bluff. I don't think it'll happen. I think they say both people express interest. Again, but it goes back to Ryan's and his people's ability to try to pick fighters. Like I said, Jojo is the guy willing to fight everybody, but Jojo is obviously the smaller guy, the guy that could probably punch the less off of the four. Again, Jojo's a physically strong guy, but not a guy that just, punches through guys. And again, I'm not knocking Jojo at all because I really like Jojo, but we have to face the reality. Ryan's a young guy that likes to fight on the outside. He's not going to, let Jojo fight inside. Jojo might, again, I still think Jojo could beat him, but it's going to be a very uphill battle versus Ryan Garcia. It's not like I don't think Jojo's going to be able to knock Garcia down, because I don't think he's carrying his power as much as other fighters should. So, yeah, I would see the Gamboa fight over the Jojo fight just because they have that crutch saying that they have mental issues or mental health or anxiety or glaucoma. I don't know what I don't know what they have, but something's obviously not clicking up there. Let's talk about fights that are coming up, fights that actually are on paper, that are signed and that are happening this weekend, which are not very much, but some actually popped up that are pretty interesting. You got Conor Benn, actually on the zone from Essex, England. So Brentwood, Essex, England. On Conor Benn versus Adrian Granado's good fight, welterweight division. But the main fight, the great Zhu Can fights Lei Wood for Zhu Can's WBA regular as featherweight title. So that should be a decent fight on its own. Well, what I found kind of buried in that same card, which was a name that we're all very familiar with, a name that's gonna make maybe you guys chuckle, but is Avni Yildirim. That was the guy that fought Canelo. You guys might still remember him as Canelo throwing maybe one punch and starching his ass out of there. So yeah, Avni Yildirim is fighting Jack Cullen in a 10-round super middleweight fight. Campbell Hatton, I'm assuming that's Hatton's kids fighting in there too. But yeah, that's pretty much it. One thing that I do like doing when I do these podcasts is asking you folks for questions. You know just asking, because I think really the podcast isn't about mainly me. It is me talking, and it's me talking about myself, and that's one thing I've always wanted to do was, I want to be able to have a conversation with myself before I have a conversation with other folks. That stuff it's been very difficult because I'm always, I'm a fucking social butterfly. I like talking to people. I like, one of the great things about boxing is that you get to talk to great minds. I've met some great, amazing people through boxing, and most of them, I'm the one listening to the stories. One of the great things about this podcast is it lets me tell the story, so it's kind of interesting. It makes me feel cool because I'm the one that's doing the talking, but for the most part, I like listening to what a lot of these experts, the people that have already been through boxing, the Steve Kims and other folks that I've met through boxing that always have nothing but good stuff to them. So I like to answer questions whenever we can, and I'm gonna do that today. Kiko Valderas, shout out to Kiko Valderas. We know he was in his, he had just a great guy and a good friend. He says que si le darán drug test a Belfort, conocido as drug cheater. Okay, so Belfort is a guy that's fighting Oscar, which I didn't really mention. So today Oscar had a presser. He's announced finally that he's going to make a fight. The interesting thing about the Oscar fight is that it's not a what do you call it? It's not a exhibition fight. It's a legit fight. A fight that's going to go on the record. Interesting. I know Oscar's ballsy, but I don't know, man. I like Oscar. He's fighting this guy that's like fucking 200 pounds. I started reading up on him. I heard he got popped for being dirty. Not that Oscar should worry about an MMA fighter, because Oscar's going to do what he's going to do. And the great thing about Oscar's not a fighter that likes to stay in there and mix it up. Oscar's a fighter that likes to use his distance. The most beautiful thing Oscar ever had was that jab that was like a fucking whip. So should Oscar worry about it? No, man. Like, look, man, both of these guys are in their 40s, closer to 50s now, I believe. So if they need to use a little extra juice to go put on a good show, fuck it, so be it. I don't think we have absolutely nothing to worry about when it comes to Oscar. I think Oscar's going to be fine. I think he's let his body recover. I think on the contrary, I'm kind of glad in a way that selfishly, I'm kind of glad he's fighting. I didn't get to see Oscar fight live many times, but this fight I actually want to be there. I think as an adult, I'm gonna be like sort of like when Chavez was fighting the Travieso fight. It's not really real, and to Oscar in a certain extent it is, but it's the guy that you grew up liking actually fighting in there. And that's to me, in my opinion, is going to be special. I guess it's a bit of nostalgia. I don't know. I like it. Luis the Mamon asked, who robbed Abner's house? Was it someone from Hawaiian Gardens? So just to go back on that story, somebody broke into Abner Mata's house. I believe it's because I think Abner lives by the beach now, Newport Beach or something like that, or at least that's what I assumed. They broke into his house, they stole a bunch of his memorabilia, and Abner's been posting it, and so has everybody in the community, I guess, and not only boxing community, but one thing that you have to know about Abner, he has the kind of a big name in SoCal with the Mexican community. So everybody that has following is posting about this. So who robbed him? I don't know, bro. I don't know. He posted some videos and it looks kind of grimy. It does look like Hispanic folks. So there goes a rope or under around her neck. A lot of people, of course, saying, oh, it's probably his people, blah blah blah. But I don't think it was Hawaiian Gardens. I just think it looks like his primary residence. So whatever it is, man, I really hope. Shit, man. It's gotta suck for people to go into your house. So that's brutal. The Afterlife _gloves, and shout out to the Afterlife _gloves. A good guy. He restores gloves, and not gloves because not boxing gloves, but baseball gloves. Make sure you guys give him a follow. He asks, Prime Roy Jones Jr. versus Prime Canelo. If you never saw a Prime Roy Jones Jr. fight, you would be asking this question. Prime Roy Jones was the thing of beauty. He was just a master fighter, a fighter that you didn't believe what you were seeing, and if you blink, you might have missed that knockout. At the same time, Prime Roy Jr.'s never really, I feel, fought. I think he was sort of like Floyd, where he gave away his prime. He never really fought fighters at his level. He was always like a few steps above anybody that he fought. So yeah, I don't know. I think Canelo wouldn't stand a chance. I think it's a 2-3 round fight. Canelo's great for what he is versus the landscape of fighters that we have now. Landscape of fighters isn't that great. Europeans are finally coming over because of social media and plain simple marketing. These guys have a name for themselves, but they're just not good, and that's why he looks great. Let's see. Ra0311 asks, what happened to El Camarón Julian Ramirez? Did he retire? Camarón, you know what? He's still around. We follow each other on social media. I see him a lot. He's, it seems like he's doing good. He's enjoying life, being a dad. Camarón was, in my opinion, he was a special kid grinder. Fought his ass off, but he fought for himself. And sometimes there's fighters that cannot deal with the politics that boxing is around, or that any politics that are around in general. And he seemed unhappy with the way he lost, which in my opinion I thought he won when in his very last fight. But he seems like he wants to come back, but he doesn't. But I think it's been a while. I think he would have been in a position where him and Jojo would have been a great fight because they were both guys at 126 pounds. So maybe he would have moved up a couple of weights as well, been at 130, 135. He had the frame for it, but I don't know, man. Great little fighter. I hate that we never got to see more of him. Let's see. D-Rod32 asks, when do you think we get Crawford versus Porter fight? Again, if it happens, I think it happens sometime, maybe November, December. I don't think it happens anytime soon. Juan Manuel Marquez versus Cotto, a real fight? No, I don't think. I think all those talks are over. And if it was going to happen, it was going to be some sort of exhibition fight. I don't think that they'll do it for real. Especially Marquez, because Marquez had the ability to fight Pacquiao for a ridiculous amount of money. Marquez said, absolutely not. I'm not fighting that fucking monster. Let's see. I know there was a couple of more questions, and I had screen grabbed them because I had said I was going to do the podcast last week. And of course, me being me, I didn't. I was trying to see if I find them. we could talk about him right now, but it seems like I have nothing but memes on here, and it's getting ridiculous. Guys, no, hold on. Actually, you did find him. Okay. Hugo Juice underscore says, will Hugo ever finish his? Okay, so these are random questions. Will Hugo ever finish his truck project? Hugo, just to give you guys a little feedback, Hugo is a good friend of mine. He used to do all the shirts. We were partners on doing all the shirts when I used to do the Golovkin, Mexicans for Golovkin, the Boxing and Chill, the NWA, all those great shirts that you guys heard about. I did with him. So he's working on a truck. He had a truck. He had like the SUV version of my truck. If you guys know, follow me on social media. I had an old Chevy truck. He had the Tahoe version of that, or Yukon in this case. He's been working on it for like 10 years. He still hasn't finished it, but it looks like it's coming along. So hopefully he does finish it. Let's see. Vic, pound for pound, Vic underscore asks, Zurdo versus Better BF. Who you got? I got Zurdo. I think Zurdo. Better BF is a hell of a puncher, but it's going to take a while for him to be able to catch Zurdo. And Zurdo looks like he's sitting down on his punches a little more. I don't want to give him too much credit because, he did fight Sullivan Barrera. I thought Sullivan Barrera Sullivan Barrera had the ability to fight back, but obviously that was great matchmaking for his guy. Hell of a homecoming from Golden Boy and them. So, but I think still Zurdo has the ability to beat a better BF in my opinion, and better BF Zurdo better try to get better BF before Canelo gets better BF. That's all I'm saying right there. Pinkster007 asks, Tanahara, how does he deal with the brawlers given the blueprint? Look, man, it's tough. I think a guy like Tanahara, you can't. I've always been a fan of this kid. I think he's one of the most beautiful, pure boxers that there was. The problem or the issue here is making sure he knows that. He needs to understand and he needs to be able to capitalize on his abilities. He shouldn't let his ego get in the way. A prime example of a guy like Tanahara that took advantage of all his physical attributes was Paulie Malignaggi. Paulie Malignaggi couldn't crack an egg. And now I think Tanahara has a bit more punch than Malignaggi, but they're both good at what exactly they are, is at boxing people's heads off. And I think this past weekend when we saw him fight versus the guy from Mexico, we saw a guy that was not going to take no for an answer. Just a beast of a man, and he decided to try to fight him, which I don't understand what happened. From my understanding, everybody knew the game plan was to box, but it just didn't come out of him. So I think a guy like Tanahara has to, look within himself and say, you know what, this is gonna happen. This is not gonna be the last time he gets bullied around or he fights like that. So what does he do when someone tries to bully him around? Does he sit there and just say, fuck it, let's go to war? Or should he say, you know what, let me back out, let me try to spin this kid, let me try to jab my way out of the situation? Rio_Valdez as Vivol or Canelo at either 168 and 175. Vivol's a little different because Vivol's a tall kid, but it's a tall kid that can move. I think tall kids that can move at that skill level will present a tough job for Canelo. I'm not saying that he could beat Canelo, but I could guarantee you he'll make it tougher than any of the guys that are out there right now. Would it be a pleasing fight? Absolutely not. Would it be great to see Canelo lose? Fuck yes. Eddie Aguilera and Eddie Boxing, I think what is his Instagram name? Eddie Boxing Champions? Aguilera Boxing Champions. I'm sorry. He makes some of the best. I'm telling you guys, this guy makes the best outfits ever. He asked just a crazy question. Is Lando a co-host? Lando, if you guys don't know Lando's an internet troll. Very intelligent guy when you talk to him one-on-one, but on social media, he's just a piece of shit. And so are we. So, no, he'll never co-host nothing. Let's see, what other questions do we have here? let's see. It says, since they announced Virgil fighting a top-ranked fighter, should we expect Ortiz versus Bud 2022? If Crawford stays at top rank, absolutely, because I don't think Golden Boy is going to be worry about catching a loss. I think with Golden Boy fighters that I don't think that's ever the main focus. It's never whether they want to keep a fighter's undefeated record. It's whether we want to fight fighters, we want to make the best fights. Sometimes it backfires, but hey, shit, so what? The ones that benefit are the fans. So yes, I would expect that at 2022, because I mean after the Mean Machine fight, where else is there to go? That's a guy. Remember, if we remember correctly, Crawford is 2 fights shy of getting dropped. I know they didn't count it, but he did get dropped by the Mean Machine, and the Mean Machine is about to fight Virgil Ortiz. So you never know. And my man Artie Quesada, Jesus Christ, he asks, prediction: Wilder versus Fury 3. Prediction: I'm gonna be drunk not watching TV because the fight is off. Battle in the Desert, and shout out to my folks at Battle in the Desert. They're a bunch of cops that like to fight. They're having an event sometime in October, I believe, when the sun goes down in the Ayapara, India, or some shit like that. Dice, no es lo mismo un metro. Oh, shit, it's a perverted joke. I'm going to just walk away from that one. Let's see. Damien, and I'm reading all of these today till I get tired. Let's see. It's All-Star Week in baseball. What the fuck are you talking about boxing for? Fuck you and your fundillo. Let's see. Boxing BS. Canelo versus... You see, guys, when I was talking about earlier that people are so about the Canelo plan, here's another question. Canelo versus Beterbiev versus Zurdo versus Bivol. Who wins? An attorney. I think, you have Canelo and Canelo, Zurdo. Canelo beats Beterbiev. Zurdo beats Bivol. You see Canelo, Zurdo at the end for, Canelo taking it all at the end. Pancho the Chef. Shout out to Pancho the Chef. Good friend. Great restaurant here in City of Walnut, I believe. Yes. Ask, what's the best KO that you say this is the best KO I've ever seen? There's 2 of them because of their magnitude. Because you see, there's a lot of equations, Pancho. How big was the fight? And just how beautiful, plain and simple the knockout is. 2 of them that just, spark up in your imagination is Manny Pacquiao versus Marquez. I think when we all put it, if you're a boxing, or if you're a novice fan and you're looking at it, fuck, that was a great KO. But if you go back and look at what happened to Marquez throughout his career, whether it was the right decisions or not, it almost seems like in every fight, because this is what his 4th fight with 3rd or 4th fight with versus Manny Pacquiao, he always got fucked out of the decision, whether it was a draw or a split decision. But he got fucked on the first fight. I believe Marquez got dropped like 3 times in the first round, and worked his way to a decision, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that. The second fight, again, same thing. And then this happens. So he finally left zero doubt that he actually did beat the great Manny Pacquiao. And again, this is Manny Pacquiao that was destroying everybody in his path. This is Manny Pacquiao that was doing what Canelo's doing right now, that all of a sudden he got stronger with every weight division that he moved up. Instead of, finding roadblocks where he's not carrying his weight, it feels like he's carrying the weight of 3 men and knocking people out. But somehow he ended up in every division, or as he was going up in weight and in all these divisions, running into Marquez and then putting a roadblock there. And a roadblock there. And a roadblock there. Till he fought him at 147 and Marquez starts him. In my opinion, Marquez was fucking juiced up. But that's a whole nother podcast. The second one, I think it's Paul Williams versus Sergio Martinez. Sergio Martinez, if we remember correctly, he was a king at 150. No, he was a fighter at 154. Then he moved up to 160, where he beat Kelly Pavlik. Great fight versus Kelly Pavlik. But again, he was a smaller guy, very fluid, lefty, moved a lot. Sometimes not so fun to watch. At the end of the day, Margarito did beat him early on in his career. But he developed into a great 154-pounder and, again, a 160-pounder. And that's where he met Paul Williams at 160, I believe. Remember, nobody wanted to fight Paul Williams because he was like 6 foot something, but he had the wingspan of a door from bottom to top. So he finally decided to I think they had a very close fight in the beginning, in the first fight, and then in the second fight, I believe that's the way it went. Second fight, Martinez ended up catching him, and the way Paul Williams went down was just so fucking scary and beautiful at the same time, because he went down with his eyes open, just boom. And I'm talking about this big tower of a man. I mean, he looked like fucking Slender Man. This guy looked like, I don't know how the fuck he made 150, 147, 154. Again, Paul Williams had to go to 160 to try to fight a formidable opponent, and still he was too big for them. That was a thing of beauty to me, in my opinion. So yes, those are the two and I'm sorry because I went on a bit of a rant, but those are the two knockouts that just mean, at least in my generation, are going to be cemented in my head to the end of days. Let's see, because I think somebody else had something. Let's see, and Winston just came in the room. Let's see, I think there was one more thing, because this from my nephew. Abraham Carrillo says, where can I get a free puppy? If anybody knows somebody that has puppy for sale, let me know. Free puppies preferred. You know, every kid needs a puppy. Every kid needs his best friend. As a kid, I've had I've always told you guys I grew up in Compton. So there was always a pit bull, or I always had pit bulls, Rottweilers, my mutts. My first dog, I remember, her name was Paquita, a little ugly mutt that had hair and fur. It was just a little ugly thing, but most loyal dog. That was my free dog. That's the best dog I've ever had. I had like I said, my Rottweilers. I had my pit bulls. But every kid needs a dog, and now when he comes to my house, he enjoys my Frenchies. But in my opinion, the Frenchies are perfect for me because I'm old. The Frenchies are laying there all day. They need AC. They're not a dog that's for a boy. A kid, that's 10 years old needs a fucking pit bull, a golden retriever, a big dog that they could train. They could be their friend for life. So if anybody has a plug on a pup for sale, or or breeder, or something that's not a Frenchie, a bulldog, or one of those weird fucking pit bulls that the cholos be making now that can't fucking breathe, let me know. And we could do something about it. So, all right, guys, I think that is it. Thank you guys for hearing me rant. It's been fun. It's much easier to do this now that I got my nose fixed. Hopefully, we continue this. Again, there's not much fights this weekend, like I mentioned. But Team Vidrin, Chilindrin, is going to fight. So let's make sure we watch that on the zone. Avni Yildirim. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening to the Mr. Boxing Guru podcast. Thank you. Y ahí nos vemos.